Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Oliver. Thank you for having me. It's an honour to be here, and thank you to King's for inviting me to be this year's Barnabas speaker. I'm underlining the old under Old Gregorian. My eyesight is going, so glasses on so I can read this script. My late father would have been incredibly proud to see me up here today because he was proud of everything I did, but he always wanted me to succeed during my time here at King's. My parents were factory workers, and they used to work all hours God sent to help me get a head start in life. They'd work 12-hour shifts, night shifts, and do everything they could. And so I owe a lot to them, and every day I just try to think back to the head start my time here at King's gave me, and I'm very thankful to them to have sent me here to King's. I left King's in 1996, thinking I was going to go on to become an architect. That's what the tests here at school said I was going to be. I was into maths and I was into art, so that's what I applied to university to go and study. But the path I took me somewhere completely different. A series of events led me to change my university degree in my first 2 days, put myself forward for a university election, decide one day, 20 years ago, to write the phrase social media on Wikipedia, and to leave my job as the CEO at the age of 34 of a company in London to set up my own company. But each of these were turning points in my life. So I'm going to talk to you this morning about the most important lesson that I've learned along the way: to see every opportunity. We don't see all the opportunities that present themselves to us in life, and in an increasingly distracted world, seeing what's right in front of you and doing something about it can be hard, but it can also be the most important thing that you can do. I joined King's in what's now called Year 4. Back then it was called the first year, and there were 3 years: first, second and third, and then you went on to the fourth form. And I threw myself into everything that King's life had to offer me. If I'm honest, I found the beginning of my life at King's in St Albans a bit of a struggle. I didn't settle in instantly, and whilst I wasn't the best at everything, and I still remember to this day my school report where my cricket teacher, Mr Bell, described my cricket batting style as that of the village blacksmith. But towards the end of my time at St Albans, my teachers, Mr Walton, and the headmaster, Mr Abram, took me under their wing, and I flourished. Amongst my most cherished memories of my life in St Albans, number one, the after-school club called Nature Trails, which was basically lifting up rocks and looking for beetles and keeping them. Sport in general, and then the third was being given the lead role in the play for pupils that are no good at drama. The play was called The Wizard of Wobbling Rock, and I was the wizard. Towards the end of my time at St Albans, I started to find my feet on the sports field, and as I grew in stature, I realised that even at a relatively young age, I was the fastest boy in school. I ended up playing centre and wing for the first 15. I helped set up the school's first basketball team, and I captained the athletics team. Sports Day was my favourite sporting event of the school year. I had a PB of 11.7. I think I held the triple jump record for about 10 years. I don't think I know, because my sister's a lot younger than me, and she kept the record sheet, small tarnished scrap of paper at the bottom of one of my drawers. But at the age of 15, I was accepted onto Worcester Men's Athletics Club, running with the grown-ups. And from that year, I won this cup called the Victor Lador, and that was like the sixth form's best athletics trophy. And I was still quite young, so I'm really proud of that trophy. Didn't get to keep it though. I was in Kittermaster House. Kittermaster was the best house of the 90s. It had an awesome common room. The upper six were really good at sport. And the house tutors, Mrs Rosington and Mr Davis, were awesome. All of the most important factors facing the choices of an upper four going to lower remove. I studied hard, got my GCSEs, and picked art, maths and Spanish at A-levels, and I was chosen to become a monitor and head of Kittermaster House. Even though I'm not a natural academic, I did work hard at my A-levels, I got my grades, and I raced off to university to study architecture at Cardiff for chapter 2 in my life. And this was the first experience of mine where I realised now in hindsight that you need to go into every day with your eyes wide open and make the most of every moment. Because if you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. I loved Cardiff, and I made some of the best friends in that first few days at university, Freshers' Week. There's the parties, there's the nights out, there's clubs, there's societies. But while I was loving university life, I had a funny feeling that I'd chosen the wrong degree. I really didn't enjoy it. And in the first few days of a degree as long as architecture, it's a 7-year degree, they put on all these talks for people like me that weren't sure, to make sure they're in the right place. And I thought I wasn't. I don't know where I got this idea, but I thought if I moved fast enough, I could just swap degrees but stay at university. I didn't tell my parents. Back then, communication consisted of a payphone in university halls. But I wanted to find something that would give me more choices when I left university, something a little bit more flexible. And I struck gold with Cardiff University Business School. The Dean of Students agreed to see me. He accepted me onto the business degree course on the spot. And I never looked back. I told my parents a week later, they never forgave me. But while at university I led this weird double life. I felt lucky that I'd found a degree course that I enjoyed, and during the day I studied accounting and finance, went to the library and read books. Gaining valuable work experience during every summer holiday to help get me that head start, I don't know, in my working life when that was going to come around the corner. And by the way, anyone that is thinking of going to university, I can't impress this upon you all more, but get as much really great work experience as you can whilst you're at university, because a degree on its own doesn't really stand you out anymore, but work experience does. But anyway, that was my daytime at university. Outside of that, it was all about sports and societies. Sports for me at university was quite random. Athletics is a summer sport, and university isn't really a summer existence. You go home for that. And I felt like I wanted to give rugby a break. And I bumped into somebody during my first year at university who was wearing a Frisbee t-shirt. His name was Dave Barnabas, and I just got chatting to him. And for some reason, we decided to set up the university's first ultimate Frisbee club. Might sound weird, but he was really good. And before the end of the 3 years at university, we gave our team a name called No Frills. It's still called that now. And we became national champions. Dave Barnabas ended up being Team GB's captain. And believe it or not, ultimate Frisbee is a sport. But that was the random bit. The societies bit is really what changed my life when I was at university. During my first week, a friend of mine urged me to get involved in society, and they said that maybe student radio would suit me. Back then, music cost money, and if you're involved in the radio station, you got new music for free. And they told me if you managed to present a radio show on air, you kind of became popular and famous, and who wouldn't want that? So I got involved in student radio. It was hugely oversubscribed, and there were crowds and crowds and crowds of journalism students that wanted to get involved. So I was in every sense of phrase back of the queue. But I saw somebody that I thought could offer me a chance, a chap named Alex Lockwood, who was presenting the breakfast show. And I went up to him after his talk, and I asked him if he needed any help. He said yes. In year 1, I helped with the breakfast show. In year 2, I presented it. In year 3, I became head of programming for the radio station. And during that time, I was introduced to the media industry. I met people that showed me different career paths that were slightly different to the ones that I thought I was carving my own path to lead towards. During my last summer at Cardiff University, I decided to get work experience in London. A friend who lived down there, I persuaded him to lend me his spare room, and I gave myself 1 week to find a job. I had printouts of my CV, and on the Friday of that week, I still didn't have a job, so I decided to just turn up at every recruitment company's office that I could find. And the last of them gave me one. And I spent that summer working in investment management in a big bank. And that was when I realised my passion was media. When I returned to my final year, I discovered PR. A friend told me about a job that she had as head of PR for the Student Union, which at Cardiff University is basically a big entertainment venue and a place where people go for help. And to get this job, you needed to win the student election. Nothing like a challenge, I thought, so I went for it. I recruited a team of friends. It's cringe, I made myself a soundtrack. I edited a popular song and put my name in it, and we did this word of mouth campaign, and my friends and I wrote my slogan on every university blackboard and whiteboard every morning. But I won, and I got voted in as this PR executive for the Student Union, and after a year doing that, I fell in love with the profession. If you're not familiar with what PR is, because it's kind of what I've done ever since I graduated from university, I'll explain it to you. PR is public relations, and it's kind of like promotion. You either work in the PR department of a big company, so if you're into a certain brand and you work in PR there, it tends to be quite fun. Or you work in a PR agency, which is what I ended up doing. So after I left Cardiff, I applied for jobs in PR. Looking back, realising that some of the decisions and choices that I made whilst I was at university led me to this job which I loved. I joined a small PR agency which took a chance on me, and one which I ended up working on twice during my career, ending up working there in the position of CEO. Shortly after moving to London for my new glittering PR career, on a night out back here in Worcester, I met my wife, Catherine. Things moved pretty fast. She left Worcester and moved to London, and we moved in together. We settled down, but being a young couple in London is quite expensive. So after a short while, we moved a little bit further out. And when we were living in Reading, we had our first child, Beatrice. And then when we moved back to Worcester, our second child, Hugo. Those early days of starting a family, we were a team. And whilst my wife gave up her job in healthcare to help look after her family full time, I became a lunatic long-distance commuter and travelled to London every day for work. I mentioned that this talk today is about the opportunities that present themselves, and the next ones that came for me were at work. It was early in 2001 that, kind of by accident, I was trying to set up a website to load up some documents, but I set up a blog, and I inadvertently became one of the world's first social media influencers. Social media wasn't a thing back then, it wasn't called that. And I should say I was only an influencer on a tiny scale, but it still meant that attention came my way, and so did job opportunities too. Social media was just this emerging concept, but I liked the ring of the phrase, so I decided to write about it on my blog and on Wikipedia. So back in 2006, I wrote the first page of social media on Wikipedia. I wrote the first 4 pages, and Wikipedia being what it is, you can go back and see how it reads. It's really not very good, but it was the beginning. And shortly after that, social media took off, and so did my career. I'm lucky now to have clients who I represent in the world of social media and PR that I feel are fun. And I employ a lot of people that basically spend their day messing around with social networks. We work for companies like Adidas, Snapchat, YouTube, and Coke. But it's the non-profit work that popped up at this period in my life that's probably made the biggest impact on my work life. So 5 years ago, I decided I wanted to do a TED talk about the impact that social media is making on the world around us. I watched the TED talk, and I saw somebody I knew do one, and I thought, I could do that. And I've got a thing I want to talk about, how I invented social media, even though it's not really an invention, but the organisers said I was being too positive, and they wanted me to balance it out and look at the negative side of social media too, which is something I never really liked to think about, because it was my job. But they gave me the gig, and I agreed to look at the dark side too. And my talk, which is now on TED.com, about the need for a reset in the world of social media, set me off down a different path. After my TED Talk, a TV producer from one of the Sunday morning ITV chat shows emailed me out of the blue. They said to me they were looking for somebody to come on the show who was campaigning for social media safety, and did I have a campaign? So I thought of a name, I made a website, and I launched a non-profit, which I called RAISE, which stands for Responsible Actions in Social Media for Everyone. It got me on the TV, and it has done quite regularly since. It's got me invited into businesses, I've helped individuals, I've written education curricula for schools, and I've even been invited into women's prisons to help people that are about to be released, equipping them with digital literacy skills to keep them safer online. And this has all been such an eye-opener to me. In my industry, you get personal awards sometimes. I'm really proud that my company, Benvie, which I founded, which, by the way, I'm named after where I grew up. I know many of you here might know the word, but in the London social media scene, they just thought it was this really cool, meaningless word and really corporate or whatever, but I grew up there, so that's why I called it that name. It's won loads of awards, it employs loads of people. But what's mattered most to me has been some of the work in this non-profit sense that earned me a little bit of recognition, and I won a couple of awards for it recently. I brought props, so here they are, I've got 3. This first award I won, it's like the Oscars, but just less shiny. It's called the Savers, and it is for my services or something like that. This one was the biggie. It was the Campaign Magazine Award for CEO of the Year. They clearly don't give it to people who just run great businesses, but I think the non-profit work really helped. These 2 trophies take pride of place on my shelf at home, behind this one. My proudest. It may not be on my shelf for long because I kind of stole it from a school. It's the only trophy I was allowed to keep during my time here, and it reads Upper 4th Form Athletics. So those 3, my proudest, and Dr. Oliver, if you'd like it back later. My company, Benvie, is now quite big. I'm definitely going to knock one of these awards over in a second. We've got offices in New York, LA, Chicago, and a bunch of cities in America. We just opened in Germany and in Asia, and work is really busy and really cool. But even now that business is big and fast moving, I go into every day with my eyes wide open, looking for that next opportunity. Because I love what I do, but I'm reflective enough to know that it wasn't always that way. So all I'd like to say is remember that in every part of your journeys through life, opportunities will present themselves. You just need to be open to seeing them and to be doing something about them. Thank you to Kings for accepting me into the Barnabas group, and thank you to all of you for listening to me today.